All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. So, the conclusion of the upcoming 2025 Major League Baseball season will mark the end of the league's working relationship with ESPN. MLB games have been seen on ESPN since 1990, but yesterday both parties agreed to go their separate ways. ESPN reportedly wanted Major League Baseball to accept a lower rights fee, while MLB has not been a fan of what league commissioner Rob Manfred has deemed as minimal coverage by the network for his sport. At the end of the day, in my opinion, you could chalk this one up to being something that was best and necessary for both parties to do. ESPN, in my opinion, okay, is no longer the worldwide leader in sports coverage from the aspect that they're extremely commercial and corporate now in comparison to what they once were. Okay. And in doing so, I feel like the network, of course, they are a financial monster. But to me, I just think that they have lost their sizzle as far as what built them and made them great. Okay. ESPN, like other sports networks out there, in my opinion, have simply become or has simply become oversaturated with the sports talks and the debate desk while regulating some of their sports, not all, to the pay-per-view format, i.e., streaming. All right. And albeit I get it that streaming is the way of the future, but nonetheless, you're taking it away from some fans at the same time, in my opinion. To me, ESPN currently only gives a gee whiz about football and basketball. And I know that football and basketball are both immensely popular sports. But just think about it. You look at how much money that ESPN has shelled out for their coverage of the NFL and Monday Night Football, shelled out for their coverage of the NBA, as well as college football and college basketball coverage for the likes of some leagues such as the Southeastern Conference. Now, to me, ESPN, and this is in my opinion, ESPN only cares about a sport based on this. This is right now. This is the way that the tenor of the network has changed. But it only, cares about a sport or a league or a conference that they have a network deal with. You just look at college football as an example. Last season, ESPN talked it up about the SEC. They didn't talk it up about the Big Ten. Why? Because the Big Ten no longer has a television deal with ESPN. And the same could be said basketball wise for the Big East and other leagues as well. Okay. Now, in 1990, when ESPN and MLB began working together, baseball was in a different place. I do feel it was more popular than it currently is, but also ESPN was in a different place because they were looking for live sports programming that was going to help to build their network. And I do think that baseball, which was already popular, their relationship with ESPN worked during the 1990s, during the 2000s. Prime examples of this, their coverage. I thought, like back then, Baseball Tonight was a premier program for both ESPN and Major League Baseball. Sunday Night Baseball was a marquee event. And of course, ESPN did have games, during the week. We had Baseball Tonight during the week. We had live look ins, you name it. But the coverage and the production value, okay, is not what it once was. I've said this. Some might agree with what I'm about to say. Some might disagree. But like I say, it's all good. To me, I feel like ESPN doesn't utilize their networks properly. You figure you got ESPN, you've got ESPN2, you got ABC, you've got ESPNU, where they could show programming. And I think too often they just outwork themselves, meaning, they put garbage on there sometimes, and it's like they've just focused less and less on the actual games. And I could understand where Major League Baseball is coming from because September is stretch run time in the regular season in MLB. And on ESPN, at least, they're put on the back burner because ESPN's primary focus at that time is, the National Football League and college football. And then you think about Labor Day weekend and like the first week of September or so for the U.S. Open with their tennis coverage. And Sunday Night Baseball at that point becomes an afterthought. I do remember at one point where ESPN and MLB, and this was probably uh, like 25 years ago or so, give or take, where ESPN and Major League Baseball did have a stalemate because, okay, throughout the spring and the summer, Sunday Night Baseball was shown on ESPN, and then ESPN decided to push Sunday Night Baseball to ESPN2 for their coverage of the National Football League, and Major League Baseball wasn't thrilled about it then. And like I said before, Sunday Night Baseball used to be a premier event. But ESPN's coverage of the sport is not what it once was. Okay. They very rarely talk about baseball on that network. It was one of those, I think, during free agency in MLB, which is one of their biggest events, aside from Juan Soto signing with the New York Mets, there really wasn't that much to talk about. Honestly, they didn't even talk about the Dodgers winning the World Series last October, in my opinion, as much as they should have. Okay. TFX, you're asking, is baseball going to be okay? I noticed even the World Series was on cable, not on networks. Well, the World Series was on Fox, okay, but I think MLB's gotten a little carried away with it themselves. Okay, they're not blameless in this because the bulk of their postseason, has been like on cable from the standpoint that all right, you've got Fox, but then up until the World Series, the coverage is on FS1, and everybody doesn't have FS1. All right. And now, there's a good possibility about the streaming aspect. I know that they have the deal with TBS, which I'm definitely going to touch on in a minute, as I think that could be something beneficial to them. CJ, what's going on, my man? Long time. TFX, you're also saying maybe it was the NLCS and the ALCS. Yes, it was. They keep the Fall Classic on Fox, but not the first rounds of the playoffs. I know the wild card round last year and the year before was on ESPN, and then the LDS and the LCSs were all either on Fox, FS1, or TBS. So what it's going to come down to is this. I mean, this is important for Major League Baseball and Rob Manfred. Can they or will they get the coverage that they need from another network? And that is going to be important. I look at it like this. You look at TBS right now. TBS currently has a deal with Major League Baseball. They do shows from games during the week. And I think this could be an opportunity for Major League Baseball right here because they're part of that Warner Brothers Discovery Turner family. I bring this up because we just saw Turner lose its NBA package. Maybe Turner wants to invest more in Major League Baseball. You've got NBC and Peacock out there. Maybe they want to invest more in Major League Baseball. You have CBS and Paramount out there. Maybe they want to invest more in baseball. Don't laugh at what I'm about to say, but maybe the CW. I know some people might look down upon it, but the CW is a growing network and they're trying to get it out there sports wise. They got some stuff with NASCAR. They got some things college football and college basketball wise with the ACC. Okay. Could these people potentially make Major League Baseball happy? Definitely, I think in part of MLB's package, they would want streaming. So you could bring in an Amazon, you could bring in a Netflix, and of course, the regional sports cable networks are dying. I think the New York Mets and New York Yankees are probably two of the still strongholds in that category. The Yankees, of course, they own the Yes Network, and then of course the Mets with SNY. But a lot of those teams, those regional sports networks, are dying. You think about the Fox Sports, which turned into Bally, which turned into Diamond, and it's not working out, especially for some of those smaller market teams. So I think Major League Baseball is definitely going to look at part of a streaming package. But I say like this: whoever they go to, and I think they're going to need a network involved, whether it's a CBS, whether it's an ESPN, whether it's a Turner, they're going to need a network involved. But that network needs to make MLB a priority, and Major League Baseball has to do its part as well. I say like this: if you're going to date more than one girl, you're going to have to make all of those girls feel equally special. Okay. And I say this because in ESPN, they married themselves to too many sports networks. And at the end of the day, none of those sports networks want to be treated like a second class citizen. The NFL wants primetime slots, and they're going to get it. The NBA wants primetime slots. Major League Baseball, the NHL, all of these leagues want primetime spots. And if you're unable to give all of them primetime spots, it's going to be a problem. Changing gears, I look at IndyCar. IndyCar is going to Fox, and their coverage is going to start next month. Okay. IndyCar was not thrilled with NBC, not because NBC's production was bad. I thought NBC's production was good, but IndyCar was not a fan of some of their races, some of their important races, okay, being pushed to Peacock. All right. And, there are plenty of people out there who have the Peacock subscription, but not everybody. And they wanted their races accessible to everybody. Fox chimed in and said, hey, we will put all of your races on Fox. Okay. The same can be said for NASCAR. Fox has expanded its wings college football wise. Okay, they cover the Big Ten, they cover the Big 12 as well. All right, they cover some Mountain West contests as well, but nonetheless, they try to give it equal footing. Of course, the Mountain West is not going to get prime real estate on Fox over the Big Ten, for an example, but they will have their opportunities there. You have to give the opportunity. You have to show the people that you're working with that, hey, you truly care. And I think for ESPN's sake, Major League Baseball was no longer a priority. But I'll tell you like this: what MLB needs to do is, if they are going to have a national game on whatever network it is, and let's say it's those prime slots, a Saturday evening, a Saturday afternoon, a Sunday afternoon, you name it, it's got to be marquee teams. If people are going to tune in to a national network like Fox at 4 o'clock, all right, right now they don't want to see White Sox Pirates, okay, because those two teams, and this is no disrespect, this is a reality based off of their records from last season. Nobody's going to want to sit down and watch White Sox Pirates on a national scene. Their fan bases would, yes. But if you turn around and turn that series and say, hey, we're going to have Braves, Yankees, you have a story right there. Two of the top teams in baseball, two playoff teams from last season. And then, of course, you could throw in and say, hey, Max Fried just pitched for the Braves. He's pitching for the Yankees now. It's his time to face his old team. You could have Yankees Dodgers, always an iconic matchup. Okay, now you could also say, hey, it's a World Series rematch from last season. Well, you could also market it as possibly a World Series preview for 2025. Mets Yankees. You could say, hey, the return of Juan Soto to face the New York Yankees. You could say Mets Phillies. We can go right down the list, but the bottom line is, if you're Major League Baseball and you want to galvanize your sport once again, you've got to put your best teams out there with your best players, and you've got to market them. Everybody has to be on the same page, both network or networks and the league coverage. That's the only way that it's going to work. Because at the end of the day, baseball is no longer America's pastime. It once was, okay, but I think Major League Baseball, not to say that it's still not popular, but I think it has taken a back burner to football and baseball. I mean, you just look whether you're watching Fox Sports One, whether you're watching ESPN or any of these other, large networks with their debate tables. Very rarely do they talk about baseball. Everything on there is football or basketball dominated. I mean, right now we are towards the end of February. The NFL season ended a couple of weeks ago, and it still dominates the talk. In the same thing with the NBA. And I wish it wasn't like that because I'm a fan of baseball. I think anybody who's listening to this is a fan of baseball as well. I like football and I like basketball as well. But at the end of the day, Major League Baseball has got to go out there and they've got to work with a network that wants to help market them, and then B has the sport in its best interest. I think that is what is going to be vital for Rob Manfred and company because, of course, his job as commissioner of baseball is to continue to keep the owners happy. How do you keep the owners happy? You bring them money. How do you bring them money? You bring in the revenue, especially with network and media deals. This is why this is going to be important. Now, will ESPN regret this divorce? Um, Maybe not, because I think they're still going to go out there and they're still going to push that money towards football related things. They're still going to push that money towards basketball related things. And at the end of the day, I don't think they'll shed a tear because baseball was no longer a top priority for ESPN. So at the end of the day, I think ESPN will be okay. I think Major League Baseball will be okay because between the streaming platforms and the networks, I think that they will have an opportunity to go out there and get something done. If you look at CBS, the only thing that they really show in the summertime, big sports wise, is golf. Okay, so if you're Major League Baseball, I think you could, possibly if CBS Paramount was interested in there, maybe you can have, a Sunday afternoon game on a CBS platform. But I'll tell you like this: if you want to go back and still make Sunday night baseball a priority, it has to be on one of the bigger networks. It can't just be on the streaming platform. If you're going to do something with CBS, well, then guess what? That Sunday night game needs to be on CBS and Paramount Plus. That Sunday night game needs to be on an NBC and the Peacock. That Sunday night game needs to be on a TNT, okay, as well as Max. That's just the way it is. It can't just solely be on a streaming platform. It can't just solely be on a network platform either. Okay, these are the things that I think going forward it has to work. But at the end of the day, it's better that both of these sides just went their separate ways now instead of wasting each other's time. They had the opt out. It works for both sides, and that's at the end of the day. TFX, I'm going to let you answer that question right there as far as why you feel that the Dodgers choke. I mean, CJ, I'll tell you like this: CJ is a Braves fan. He wears his heart on his sleeve. And you know what? Kudos. And I tip my hat to him for that. But again, Major League Baseball, they've got to do what's best for them. They need to work with somebody who is going to have their best interest and market their sport. And I think going forward, okay, it's one of those where, like I said, make those primetime games an event. You look at the Los Angeles Dodgers, they are your defending World Series champion. They are a team that's loaded with stars. Market them. You look at the New York Mets, they're spending money on the East Coast. They just gave Juan Soto more than $700 million. Market them. The New York Yankees, I know that they have not won a championship since 2009, but they are the gift that keeps on giving. Market them. The Boston Red Sox, they have had a couple of down years. They're still one of your marquee franchises. Market them. This is what Major League Baseball is going to have to do. This is with whomever works with them is going to have to do. It's a new day for Major League Baseball, but at the end of the day, they've got to get focused and they've got to make it work. But folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank each and every one of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. CJ, as always, my man, it was a pleasure. The start of the MLB season is right around the corner, my man. So hang tight because I'm going to be talking more baseball over the next couple of months. And I know that is right up your alley. TFX, my man, as always, it was a pleasure. Um, you're hoping that the Dodgers choke. I'll tell you like this, they've got a good chance to run it back, but like I always say, the playoffs are a long ways away, and anything and everything can happen in the month of October. But like I said, the Dodgers are definitely once again going to be formidable. But folks, if you like what you heard and saw on this podcast, please feel free to hit that like button as well as subscribing to this channel. It is greatly appreciated. If you're on Twitter, uh, which is now the X. Please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. And as always, there's a sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out. Drop a line to be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying thanks once again for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Be well, everybody.